Welcome to Ceretivity with Chandel, a podcast for the marketing community to connect and learn from each other.
Hello and welcome to Ceretivity with Chandel. I'm super excited to have you here with us today for our very first podcast for Ceretivity, and I do promise to explain what Ceretivity is all about. But first I want to do a little introduction of who I am and why I'm talking about marketing. So I've had quite a varied career. I started in customer service and very quickly realized that I loved writing. I had my own writing business for about 5 years, Words of Worth. And then I up six and moved to London. Was very fortunate to have some great roles in London and learn from some amazing people. I worked at the CIPD in Marcoms, their events team and their marketing team. And some of the big projects that we worked on were their learning and development show and their annual conference. Then I was fortunate to work for the Adecco Group, UK and I, and that was a bit of a three-pronged role. It involved internal communications, brand marketing, and PR before moving into a campaign management role with them. And before I moved back to Sydney, I was with Suzanne HR for 2 years as their head of content, really getting into thought leadership and understanding how to really drive the conversation forward. Since moving back to Australia, late 2021, I've held a variety of different roles across marketing and content, including a career highlight for me, which was working at HR Leader. I was the launch editor for HR Leader. We had a very successful podcast and we talked about all sorts of different topics relating to HR and people management. More recently, I've worked with Crafted Writing as a senior account director, and that was an exciting role, primarily supporting financial services clients like ANZ and CBA. And then I have also worked internally with Aware Super in an internal communications project role. All this is to say, my background is varied. I have experience across a lot of different areas of marketing and content and lots of ideas that I'm looking forward to sharing with you all. Also looking forward to sharing a little bit about the journey of just being a marketer and what that looks like in today's world. Things have changed a lot, as we all know. The job market has changed a lot and what our roles are looking like are evolving. So this podcast will also be concentrating on that. But you're probably curious about Ceretivity and what does Ceretivity mean? So, what is Ceretivity? Ceretivity is the value of the human mind and creativity fully realized in an AI-powered world. What does that mean? What that means is it's all about what we bring to the table as human beings, as marketers, as writers, as content producers, the original ideas that we come up with that AI can't yet, and then basically taking the best of what we do and powering it with AI, using the AI and automation tools that we have now to really take our marketing further than we've ever been able to before, to be more efficient, to test and learn on a scale that we haven't been able to before, but never losing sight of how we add value. And the word Ceretivity, where does that come from? Ceretivity is a combination of cerebral for the human mind and creativity coming together to create Ceretivity. So speaking about AI, which I don't think any marketing podcast that's being published today can avoid, what is going on with our industry and AI? I don't think AI is what we thought it would be. When we were talking about automation and the rise of these tools 5-10 years ago, we had this view that they would do the grunt work and that we would be left with the fun stuff that we wanted to do. And I think there's a real danger in how some of these tools are progressing, that they're actually taking some of the work that we enjoy doing. We're seeing people use these tools to write for them. We're seeing them being used in place of graphic design. And while these tools are great in terms of helping us with first drafts or first ideas, they can't replace the original ideas of human beings. They can make it faster for us. They can certainly drive output in a way that we haven't been able to before. But I think it's really important to remember that what stands out and what's unique is still going to come from a human being. So if we're using these AI tools to help us as marketers and content producers and communicators, and they're great in terms of producing, initial ideas and first drafts, our role is really changing to be custodians of the brand, custodians of tone of voice. And a really important one is fact checkers, making sure that what is produced is correct, making sure that the references are right, making sure that the AI tool hasn't hallucinated. We've all seen the horror stories of things that have been put out that haven't been properly checked after AI has drafted it. And not only doesn't it read well, and I think we're all getting pretty savvy at picking what's being written by AI, but it can be wrong, and that can be really damaging for a brand. So AI is here to stay, but we need to make sure that we put some really strong guardrails around that and that we don't put things out that are brand damaging. The other thing that I would say with using an AI tool for creative work is that people connect with people. And especially on LinkedIn, there are so many posts at the moment of people calling out AI copy. It all looks very similar. There are some really telltale obvious signs, like the American M dash being used in Australian writing. We know when we're reading AI now, and that doesn't connect, it doesn't engage, it doesn't feel like I'm learning about this person and why I would trust them, why I would work with them, maybe why I would hire them. So it's really important that we still see this as a tool and not an endpoint, something that can make our lives easier, sure, but not something that replaces people. And a word of warning about using these tools in the workplace as well. For those of us who have been around for many, many years, we've developed a lot of skills around writing from scratch or designing from scratch, and we know how to do that. It's actually one of the hardest things sometimes as a writer to stare at a blank screen and to decide the first word that you're going to type on that screen. If we use AI tools to replace that, how are our junior staff going to learn the critical thinking and those creative skills to be able to, overcome a bad day of writer's block or create something completely new? So I think that there is still very much a place, especially when someone is training and learning, to do things from scratch, to not use these tools to speed things up, so that they are able to understand what good copy looks like, how new ideas are created, and then they can use those tools to refine them. But using those tools off the bat without that foundation, I think will leave us in a situation with some very inexperienced marketers down the line. I also wanted to touch on the topic today of what is happening with our job market. What is happening with roles internally, restructures, jobs being changed around, people being moved around. And the job market is a topic that I'm going to cover with a very special guest in another episode in more detail. But I wanted to touch on it today because we're seeing terms being thrown around like the AI apocalypse. And that's tough. That's tough to see. It's tough for people who are in roles, who are worried about job security. And it's really hard for people who are looking for work in marketing and creative services at the moment. But I think the thing that we can all keep in mind is that what these tools are doing is they're inviting us to do things differently. And on a positive note, I would say that if there is one thing that we do well as creatives and as marketers, that's pivoting. We are used to trying things, succeeding, failing, sometimes somewhere in between. We try an approach, we fine tune it, and we try again. That approach is what we need to take to our roles and to the job market if you're currently hunting for a new role. Something I was taught many years ago in a sales course that's always stayed with me is just the law of numbers, that eventually you'll get a yes, right? So if you are looking for work at the moment, every no is one step closer to a yes. Every time you try something different, if maybe it doesn't work, that's one step closer to something that does. And just as one thing that you might be able to think of trying, if you're not doing this already, is networking, building your personal brand. Because if there's one thing that we know that automation can't replace, it's relationship building and how we interact with each other. Sure, people might be using AI to script some of their conversations. I would probably stay away from doing that. Maybe some people find it useful to get some conversation starters, but I think conversation between people needs to be authentic. And that networking and that relationship building is what's going to really drive the marketing careers of the future. And a note that I would add about building your personal brand and authenticity is to spend a little bit of time thinking about what's important to you and what makes you unique. I think that there is a temptation to jump on social platforms or even into networking events and to basically just be very on script, to feel like there are things that you should say or things that you think people want to hear. But if you really think about what you're passionate about, that's what people will engage with, what they will connect with. One of the things that's really close to my heart and work that I've done in the past is around diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, or DEIB, including belonging, as we now often call it. And one of the ways that that manifests for me in my work is by being a really passionate advocate for plain English and writing in a way that's accessible for a wide audience, that's inclusive, and that makes people feel seen and heard. So for me, that's a really nice alignment. So I would encourage you as a marketer to think about your values, what you bring to the table that's unique to you, and how you talk about that through your social platforms and through your relationship building. So this is just the beginning for Ceretivity with Chandel. I'm really excited about our upcoming episodes. We've got some great guest speakers that I think you'll really enjoy hearing from, and lots of topics that really resonate with the marketing community. The reason that this podcast exists is that it's by a marketer for marketers, talking about the issues that are important to us, with some tips and information along the way, experiences that we've had that might just help you in your journey as a marketer too. Some of the sorts of topics that you can expect to hear about will be career development for marketers, a little bit of job hunting support, because I know a lot of marketers and creative professionals are out looking for another role at the moment. What we can really do to AI-proof our roles, and the responsibility that I think we have as an industry to make sure that we're using AI and other automation tools responsibly while protecting our workforce. We'll also talk about particular marketing topics like branding and product marketing and thought leadership and content marketing, and lots of different exciting topics within the marketing field. So I thank you for listening today. I'd also like to personally thank everyone who has supported me in the journey of creating Ceretivity and the exciting things that we're going to do together. If you have any ideas for podcast content that you would like to see covered, or if you would like to be featured in a future episode, please do reach out to me. Best way is to email me at chandel@ceretivity.com.au. I'd love to hear from you. Looking forward to hearing your comments on this episode and future episodes of Ceretivity with Chandel. Have a great day.